Item next, we will go to Chair Loon's bill. Chair Loon will move House File 3853. And Chair Loon, is the A4 amendment yours?
It is, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any discussion on the A4 amendment? Okay, so Representative Loon moves the HF 3853. Representative Loon moves the H 3853 A4 amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. We now have the bill as amended before us. I see that we have several folks who would like to testify on the bill. Claire Sanford, Karen DeVos, Trinette Potts. Is there anyone else wish to testify for the bill with concerns? The department?
Not at this time.
Okay, with that, to your bill as amended, Representative Lewin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. This bill is trying to provide sort of a creative solution to help get at the child care crisis that we have here in Minnesota. It's something that we hear a lot about. We have spent some time trying to determine its causes and try to address or provide some solutions. We actually have a subcommittee on child care access and affordability that has been started here within this body. And there's a bipartisan, bicameral task force on child care. The OLA is currently working on a report that will be released towards the end of April on early childhood funding and programs in our states. So it's something that we spent a lot of time looking at. But what we know is that there is a shortage of quality child care settings throughout the state of Minnesota, most critically, I think, in greater Minnesota. We have fewer workers employed in that very important line of work. And it's difficult for families to afford quality child care. So the purpose of this bill is to try to, again, provide a sort of creative solution at trying to not only increase quality, but increase access and affordability for good quality early childhood learning. And why is it important? I think, first of all, it's important to establish that, as a society, making sure as we have many families in Minnesota where both parents work or single family households with children where their parents work, and where their children are during those settings is critically important. 90% of all brain development is completed by age 5 and 80% by age 3. And so those early years are critical. And we know if children are in quality settings, that they are come into kindergarten really ready to learn, ready to be successful, and we close that achievement gap that we have been trying to get our arms around here. So the package before you is really kind of a series of tax credits aimed first at parents, credits to help offset the cost of tuition or the cost of having their children in a quality child care setting. And I would say that when I say quality, this is all keyed off of the parent aware ratings that we have for settings. So that's a 1 to 4 star setting, with 4 being the highest, and a way to encourage more providers to obtain that quality rating or to increase their rating to hopefully to 4 stars over time. So parents would get a credit. Businesses would receive credit if they provide child care for their employees' children or support their employees in getting child care of a quality nature. They would receive credits. Child care professionals would receive credits linking to their individual educational attainment. Again, we can track also that quality is improved when child care professionals receive more professional development and training to be highly skilled in the very important work they do. And finally, for owners and operators of child care and early childhood learning, they would link credits to the number of low-income children that they serve. I know for some operators, a lot of times, whether it's CCAP or other dollars, there's a gap in the types of funding through those programs that would cover children and the cost of that care. So this would help a bit by giving them a credit for taking more low-income children who, again, I think benefit very greatly from these programs, and perhaps disproportionately so. So we are trying to help boost the wages of child care employees through this tax credits, and again, trying to get them to increase their professional development and educational attainment. So this bill is modeled after a bill that was produced in the state of Louisiana, has gotten great accolades, and has really been held up as a national model. The states of South Carolina and Nebraska have followed suit. And so with that, Claire Sanford with the Minnesota Child Care Association is here to tell you a little bit more about the proposal.
Okay, and before we go to Ms. Sanford, if you look in your packets for the loan bill, the top insert here, if you will, should be for the next bill.
Yes.
That should be for the HERCOS bill, so if you put that there. And then I generally like to know where things are coming from. And so the next 4 items are from Chair Loon, I believe?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so the next 4 items in your packet are from Chair Loon. So, okay, welcome committee. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Claire Sanford, and I represent the Minnesota Child Care Association, a statewide association of about 250 licensed child care centers. And as long as we're digging through packets, I've got some housekeeping, too, on the papers. I don't know if it's the same in the member packets as it is out here, but the handout titled Louisiana School Readiness Tax Credits, at least on the handout out here, is missing the last page. And then the one entitled Executive Summary is missing the middle page. That should be a 3-page executive summary. We're missing page 3. So I just want people to know there's more there, and if we need to get it to you in a different form after committee or something, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. So members, we can get them, the corrected ones are on the table?
No, I picked these up from here. I'm not sure if they're correct in your packets or not.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's proceed, please.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to point out on the House Research Bill Summary, at the top of page 3, there is a typo. The very first bullet point at the top of page 3 says career lattice step level equivalent to a child development associate. That's a repeat of an earlier bullet. That should be bachelor's degree. Instead of child development associate, that should say bachelor's degree, and the credit should be $2,000, not $500.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I was going to mention that. Okay, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Chair Loon, for your leadership on this bill, and not just on this, but for all things early childhood in Minnesota. Chair Loon has been such an incredible champion for young children and those who serve them in this state and their parents. And
Excuse me, members, my phone is off. I think I need a new phone. Fake news. Fake news. It's the Russian. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to shut this baby all the way down. I think you can do that. Slide power off. I apologize,
Chairman,
but it's off.
Just when I was chairing a committee a few years ago, I announced to the committee for everybody to be sure to turn their phones off. A few minutes later, guess whose phone went off? The chair.
Happens to the
You
best
have it
of
on
us.
vibrate with the ringer maybe on.
Well, it's off now. Throw it in the sink. Oh, okay. Please continue. That will not happen again from me.
excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I'll wait for everyone else's phone to go off. Not a problem at all. What was I going to say? Oh, sorry. Thank you. I was just starting. So I'm a former elementary school teacher in a low-income public school, and I've dedicated my entire career to being an early childhood advocate because of what I experienced as a teacher in a low-income school, and also all of the incredible neuroscience and economic research around early childhood. And I just have to say, it is so exciting to be in the tax committee. I kind of hang out in HHS and education, so I kind of feel like I've been let out of a cage, and now I'm here with all of you. It's very exciting. So, why are we here? Chair Loon teed that up for us. We know we have a childcare crisis in Minnesota, and we need high-quality childcare, but it can't exist in its current market-based financing system. There's just too much instability and financial stress. Public policy plays a really critical role in this industry. Parents can't pay more for childcare, but providers can't make less, and there's a real disconnect for a lot of people. Why are we paying so much for childcare, but childcare providers are making close to minimum wage, sometimes even below that? In a majority of states, full-time center-based childcare costs more than tuition at the state's public university. And it's not unusual, particularly if you have more than one child, for your childcare expenses to be $20,000 to $30,000 a year, which is a big hit for anyone, even people making good incomes. And we know that childcare can't just be a place to park the kids while parents go to work or school. As Chair Loon mentioned, we know now that 90% of brain development happens by age 5, 80% by age 3. Infants and toddlers are hugely important. And all later outcomes are related to what goes on in those early childhood years. So we know we have to have high-quality childcare available to parents. And high-quality early childhood programs are the only kind that provide the significant return on investment, particularly for low-income children. Whenever you hear the economists talk about the huge returns on early childhood, those are only with very high-quality programs. We can't provide those high-quality programs and what kids and families need without significant change to the early childhood workforce. We need skilled and educated professionals to be doing this work, yet we have huge challenges finding quality staff and being able to pay them enough to retain them. Our field faces very low wages. It's predominantly female, historically undervalued work. Ratios dictate costs, and it's hugely labor intensive. It costs a lot. You need a lot of people. There's a reason humans don't have litters of children. You know, we typically have one or maybe two babies at a time because human babies need so much more adult interaction and nurturing and care than most other mammals when they're born. And that's why we have the ratios we do in early childhood, because we know that to do this brain development, we need those low child-to-staff ratios. So that does increase labor costs. So in short, we need to attract, retain, help educate, and compensate our professionals so that we can educate children and help others in the state of Minnesota attract and retain their employees. And as Chair Loon said, the mechanism we use to measure quality of early childhood programs in Minnesota is called Parent Aware. It's a 4-star rating system, 1 to 4, 4 being the highest. And at the end of 2016, about 22% of all eligible programs in Minnesota had some Parent Aware rating. And any type of program is eligible. Public school programs, Head Start, family child care, center-based child care, community preschools. If it's a licensed setting, they can all earn a Parent Aware rating. So we had about 22% of our eligible programs there. We can do a lot better to increase the number of quality providers available to children and families. And this package of tax credits is unique because each credit in it targets a different group of stakeholders, and all of those stakeholders have a role to play in addressing the high-quality child care needs. Parents who choose high-quality programs, staff working in those programs, owners and operators of those programs, and businesses who want to provide child care as a benefit to their employees. So this bill addresses both demand and supply and provides overlapping and mutually reinforcing benefits within the credits. And I feel like I keep saying, as Chair Loon mentioned, this is modeled after a package of credits in Louisiana that was implemented in 2008 and has been hugely successful. So why would we want to emulate the Louisiana model other than the fact that the National Governors Association told us to do so? You have another handout in your packets, it's many pages, which is a report just released about a month ago by the National Governors Association. And the NGA gave a grant to Minnesota to study the early childhood workforce and help figure out what do we need to do to address the child care crisis from the early childhood workforce standpoint. And they listed several recommendations. The number one recommendation in that report from the National Governors Association is for Minnesota to look at a package just like this of the Louisiana tax credits because it's been so successful in Louisiana. It has achieved explosive results in a short period of time in Louisiana, and our childcare industry needs a jolt, as do our parents, our employers, and our kids needing to be ready for school. The Louisiana model focuses on childcare centers, but our bill is around childcare centers and family child care homes. Minnesota is kind of unique in the country in the number of family child care homes we have across the state and the importance of that sector of the industry to our economy, particularly in greater Minnesota. So this bill addresses family child care and centers. In Louisiana, once this package of credits was implemented, the number of quality rated programs doubled in the first few years. And now they have 75% of all of their eligible early childhood programs with quality ratings. And again, Minnesota has closer to 22% right now. Louisiana also saw an increase in the number of low-income children receiving child care assistance who were served in higher quality rated programs after this credit was introduced. In Minnesota, currently about 1/3 of low-income children receiving CCAP are in high quality rated programs. And the percentage increases are just nuts in how popular the credit was. In the first 4 years of the credit in Louisiana, there was a 307% increase in owners of child care facilities claiming the credit. And to claim that credit, they had to have a quality rating, but they also had to be serving low-income kids. So there's a big increase there. There was a 250% increase in teachers and directors and other child care staff who were claiming the credit. And the average credit that those staff earned was equal to about 1 month's average wages. So that is hugely, for low wage, people in a low wage profession, that kind of economic benefit is huge. And the increase of people getting degrees in early childhood, associates or bachelors, had an 8-fold increase, and that's directly linked to child outcomes. There was also a 176% increase in parents who claimed the credit because they had more access to high-quality programs. And the credits have been so successful in Louisiana that actually the state went through big budget scrutiny in 2016 and kind of did a review of all of the tax credits they were providing. And many were on the chopping block, and they chose to keep the package of school readiness tax credits because of what it's done for school readiness and access to quality in their economy. So in conclusion, this package is called the School Readiness Tax Credits. It's not called the daycare credits. Days take care of themselves. We take care of children. It's not called the child care credit either. It's called the School Readiness Tax Credit because it's so much more important than that. We know that if this is tied to quality and encouraging all these stakeholders to move up the quality ladder, it's a true investment in the workforce of today and in the preparation of kids and our workforce for tomorrow. And Minnesota has a chance to still be an early adopter of this effective and innovative strategy. Thank you very much for considering it.
Questions for Ms. Sanford, Representative Schultz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few questions. The first one is for the quality rating. I understand how economic incentives work, but we're not providing I think an incentive for we're penalizing essentially the low quality parent aware programs because they get a slower tax benefit. And we're really heavily rewarding the high quality centers. So I think that, it probably takes additional revenue to move up from a 1-star to a 4-star. And this tax benefit could give them maybe the additional revenue to invest to improve quality. So I would like the authors to maybe consider initially at least, making it more similar tax credit across the quality ratings so they have additional revenue to move up, because I'm assuming that we want them all to be 4 stars. And that would give them additional revenue to move up to that quality rating if it does take additional revenue to improve quality, and I'm assuming that it does. And I'm also wondering, in Louisiana, is their quality rating very similar to the parent aware quality rating, and what are those differences?
Chair Lunder.
I'll have Ms. Sanford comment on the Louisiana system, but I think it's just to comment to your first suggestion. I think it's something to look at, and I know in the education committee we've kind of struggled back and forth with. We want providers to get into the quality rating system, and obviously the goal would be to get them to move up. But the first step is trying to get providers into that quality rating system to agree, and because it's voluntary, obviously providers can decide to do it or not. If they are in the system, they are able to take children who receive scholarships, and they have to have a quality rating to do that. But the goal, again, is to make steps up on that on that increasing scale up to level 4. So whether we need to provide more incentives for that first star or not, I think is an interesting idea. So I'll think about that.
Ms. Sanford, to the Schultz question.
Mr. Chair, members, thank you very much. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in Louisiana's quality rating system as it compares to Minnesota, but in general, they are similar. They have similar requirements for moving through and demonstrating increased education and training of your staff members. They have increased, as you move up the stars, requirements for parent engagement, using developmentally appropriate curriculum and research-based assessments of children. And most importantly, I know Minnesota has a couple different, they're called pathways. We love the word pathways in Minnesota. Pathways to get to parent-aware ratings. Some of them involve an observation of your classroom by an outside observer and actually rating the classroom and giving you a score, and the score is correlated to research around outcomes for kids. In the Louisiana program, I believe all programs have to go through that independent observation, and they have to do it 3 times. In Minnesota, I think it's just once. But in Louisiana, they do 3 observations, and then I think they average the scores. So if anything, the Louisiana model might even be a little more rigorous in that sense.
Representative Schultz.
One more follow-up. Thank you, Chair Davids. In the Louisiana bill, did they structure the credit similarly, that lower star quality rated facilities get less of a tax benefit?
Ms. Sanford,
Mr. Chair, Representative, yes, they did.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Schultz. Chair Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize, I came in late. Tell me how this would apply to in-home childcare providers. How would they be able to access any of these credits? Because as I understand it, the quality rating system has been challenging for them to participate in the Parent Aware program. At least that's the feedback that I've gotten from my in-home childcare providers. So how would that work?
Ms. Sanford.
Mr. Chair, Representative, there are 2 ways in which family child care providers can take advantage of the credits in this bill. They have to choose one or the other. They can't do both. But there are 2 ways family child care can benefit here. One is through the owner-operator credit. So if you're a family child care provider, you're operating your own small business. And the way the credit is structured here for an owner or an operator is based on the star rating of based on the level of your quality rating and the number of children using child care assistance or in foster care that you serve. So it's an amalgamation of your quality rating level and the number of low-income children you serve. You get increasing tax credits based on that, but not everyone serves low-income families. And right now, we really only have financial incentives in our Parent Aware system for serving low-income families. Both scholarships and child care assistance have higher financial incentives if you are serving low-income families. And those providers not serving low-income families don't necessarily have that financial incentive to enter the quality rating system and achieve a rating. So this is one way for family child care providers to do it. The other way, if those family child care providers don't serve any low-income children, instead of taking the owner-operator credit, they could take the staff credit because they are the lead teacher in their program. So based on the rating of their program and their individual level of education, they could get a credit against their personal income taxes. So they would choose between those 2.
Chair Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Loon, I know that you've worked really hard on the whole rating system and so forth. Can you tell me how we've made the Parent Aware more easy for in-home child care providers to participate in?
Representative Loon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Representative Anderson. I think that is still a work in progress. I know what we are, have been, one of the things we did in the education bill last year, there was a requirement that you had to be 3 or 4 star rated to get, to be able to serve scholarship children. And that was a pretty fast ramp up because not all areas of the state received sort of the scholarships and the infrastructure for that to happen at the same time. And so for some of those regions of the state that got it last, there was a very short period of time for them to become 3 or 4 star. So we stretched that out, and so now you could be 1 star and still receive scholarship children with, again, the encouragement to get more providers into the system. So at least parents will have a range of choices because in some areas you may only have 1 provider it's got a star rating in their area. So I still think we've got a ways to go. As Ms. Stanford mentioned, it's only 22% of all providers that have a quality rating right now. So we definitely have work to do.
Chair Anderson. Representative Gruenhagen?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thanks for bringing this bill forward. It definitely highlights a severe crisis in my district, which is a rural district. And I even had one small community have a special community meeting to try to address the crisis of daycare for the children. For whatever reason, we have more and more daycare providers seem to leave the businesses than entering. There might be additional reasons. But, one of the things I've seen is, in my district, is we've had a church step up and buy a closed childcare facility that was not on their property and was not connected to the church. And they were assessed property taxes of about $8,000 for doing something like that, which, of course, they have to pass on to the children. So I see you have a credit for businesses who build or renovate a child care facility. Well, that's exactly what they did. But I don't think it would apply to nonprofits or I think it's 503C if I remember right. But, to me, nonprofits or churches would be an excellent way to expand daycare if we would help them with their facility. And I don't know if that's something that could be included, or is there anything in here that would help a nonprofit like a church that decides to offer something like that in terms of a credit? The way I read it, I don't see that.
Representative Lewin?
Mr. Chair, I would defer to nonpartisan. I guess I wouldn't know in that specific instance how that could work.
Mr. Williams?
Mr. Chair, Representative Gruenhagen, so a nonprofit facility would not qualify for the credit for businesses that build or renovate or sort of pay for their employees' childcare, but employees of that childcare center would be eligible for the third credit in the bill for individuals that are employees, and then people who send their children to that facility, if it was parent-aware rated, would be eligible for the credit sort of against their payments of childcare services.
Representative Gruenhagen?
Oh, just a final comment is maybe it's an area we could look at down the road, because I think there's a lot of churches out there would be willing to offer this type of service if they wouldn't be penalized with property taxes for doing so. And of course, we know that has to be passed on to the cost of the children. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Gruenhagen. Representative Loeffler?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and this is a big issue for our state, and I appreciate your leadership on trying to find ways to deal with it. Representative Lewin, I spend more time in the Human Services Committee, and I'm not on education, as you know, and it feels to me like this is a project that's probably would be great for us to consider a few years down the line when we've actually dealt with some of the much more pressing issues in this area. Because we don't have a stable system that's accessible to families and then trying to move them up. We instead have a system where we have an incredible shortage of child care providers across the state. To get into the Parent Aware program is really expensive. As Representative Anderson has pointed out, it's really a challenge for many providers to get themselves or their employees through the training programs to get STARS. And if you're working in childcare and you're working 11-hour days, you can't go to classes at night. You usually have your own family to take care of. We haven't developed online training. We haven't developed the infrastructure to really get them through, let alone affordable scholarships for the workers. And so the reality is that, the last time I looked, and this is some time ago, if I had a scholarship in my area, there was almost nothing that would be available for me and my child. And I know the problem's even worse in rural Minnesota. In child care assistance, we have 2,400 families on the waiting list to get, and many of them wait over a year to get any kind of sliding fee assistance. And so those kids, I've always wanted the university to do a study, what's happening to those kids when they can't get affordable child care at all, and they have to be very low income to qualify. And so to me, if we're going to spend $100 million, I'd first try and get rid of the waiting list. I'd try and provide total scholarships to getting workforce people into programs, because tax credits don't work if you're living paycheck to paycheck, which is what most of our child care workers do. They can't wait to get it back after they've filed their taxes after the end of the year. That's just not a good solution. And our pay scales are so low in this industry. that none of them are above paycheck to paycheck unless they're in an advantage program. And the scholarship program, I think, began with really good intentions, but the reality is for lowest income families, it will not cover a year of care. And so they can't take advantage of it even if they qualified, because it isn't sliding fee, it isn't year-round eligibility. They can use up their scholarship before they get to the end of the first year. And so I really feel like I like this concept, but I feel like you're ahead of where the service system is right now. And if I had my priorities, I'd put it into those thousands of families on the waiting list, and making the scholarship program sliding fee so that it can actually meet the needs of low-income families, and increase our reimbursement rates, which now I think are less than 25% of the median market. So it's hard to get people to take subsidized children when the reimbursement is that low. So I don't want to discourage you, but I want to say right now, I think we have to worry more about those 2,400 families that are eligible, that are waiting almost a year to get into anything, and look at some real full scholarships for those low-income workers getting into the workforce training programs that you're trying to incent. But I'm glad to hear that you have a subcommittee working on figuring out how to do this and looking at all kinds of different ways to do it.
Any comments, Representative Bloom?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Loeffler. You know, I think you raised some really good points. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we could look at doing, and I think certainly the reimbursement rate and the CCAP rate is very low and doesn't provide low-income families with many options. And I think the scholarship comment is one. I think we could do more with scholarships, but I think, again, the other I guess point I'm trying to get at with this bill is that you need to do something to incent the marketplace to step in as well. We could provide scholarships and that, but we still have a problem with the number of providers, and doing something to try to incent, whether it's employers stepping in to help provide more of a benefit to their employees for the cost of childcare, and helping that be paired with quality, or some of the other ideas in this bill. I think we need to do something to get the marketplace kind of energized, if you will, or ready to step up to meet the needs of Minnesota families, which we're just not doing right now.
Representative Loeffler?
No, I appreciate that. It's a really tough issue, and it's going to take big money, like the kind of money in this bill, to make it move forward. I just feel like we've got to deal with some of the basic foundational pieces maybe before we go to this much in incentives.
Okay. Chair Marquardt?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And in my neck of the woods, we're losing some daycare providers, and a lot of it's regulations, but this certainly, would help. And I like the idea of rewarding the 3- and 4-star parent aware, because that's where we want to go. My concern right now is, and maybe some of the other legislators have mentioned this, is kind of, it seems to be rewarding the 3 and 4 stars, which is good, and they're going to continue, but I don't know if there's enough help here for kind of these areas that have low access to 3 and 4 stars, like in rural Minnesota right now, where there aren't a lot. And so I mean, I just don't know if this is going to, looks to me, it could exasperate. You already have people who have access to good 3 and 4, and they're going to benefit, and the other ones aren't. And I don't know if this is going to bring it up or actually divide it. And so, I mean, what are the efforts right now, especially out in rural Minnesota, but around the state, to move the people to 3 and 4 stars? I mean, that's where I'd like to see a real effort being made right now. And then would you happen to know, out of the spending, what % would be metro and what % would go to rural? Because I just have a feeling that in rural areas, there just are not a lot of 3 and 4 stars as compared to the metro, but I might be wrong on that. So would you happen to have a breakout as far as, of the 90 million, what amount initially would go to metro versus rural? And then what are you doing to try to build up the 1 and 2 stars that get them to 3 and 4 stars?
Chair Loon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Marquardt. I'll have Ms. Sanford address some of that, but again, as I commented before, I think we need to do more to incent providers in the rural areas to get into the star rating program. This has been sort of a long-standing or a continual push to try to get more providers in, and I think First, it was availability of scholarships and whether it was worth their time to get in, if there was going to be scholarship families available, because that was the only incentive for the quality rating system. And so I think that's one thing, and the other is Representative Loeffler highlighted. And then as we've just had more and more providers, especially home-based providers, just get out of the business. And so getting people to start up a business is just very difficult because the hours are long, the pay is pretty low. And so it's a combination of those factors. So I'm not sure how we do that. We've done some other things through DEED to provide some incentives for childcare providers through grants and that through DEED, through some of the budget funding that we did last year. I don't know if some of that is being contemplated for supplemental or not, but I think there's some other things we could do to try to get some of the new facilities or providers, home-based providers up and running. And I'll let Ms. Sanford add anything she'd
Ms.
like to.
Sanford, Chair Markwart's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Really quick answer for your question about metro versus rural.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Well,
It would
clears
be-
that up.
There you go. It would be good to know. I mean, those are the kind of things, obviously, we want to know when implementing policy. And I don't know who would figure that out, but I would like to know that as well. And in terms of what else is going on in the state to incent more people to get into the quality rating system and move along the stars, I just want to say, totally agree with everything. This is not a panacea. We couldn't just do this and solve the crisis. I mean, even the report that you have the executive summary of says very clearly, even though it's very glowing of what these tax credits have done in Louisiana, it says you can't do this alone. You have to have a robust child care assistance program. We have to be paying attention to regulations in Minnesota. We have to be paying attention to the impact of what universal pre-K could do to the child care market. Any one of those things won't be enough. We have to be looking at all those things together, and we have to do more than one thing. So I couldn't agree more with all of that stuff. In terms of incentivizing people to get into Parent Aware, as Chair Loon mentioned, a few years ago, you did have to be 3 or 4 star rated to accept scholarships. And a lot of people said, I'm not going to enter Parent Aware because it seems like a really long jump to go from 0 stars to 3 right off the bat. That seems like a lot of work I have to do and some financial outlay before I can even get to that financial incentive. So the law was changed to go back to something more like this bill, where it says now you can be any star rating up until the year 2020, so that people who earn 1 star and want to move to the 2nd star and the 3rd star do have some access to those financial incentives. I can't remember what we're doing with CCAP differentiated reimbursement. I know it's the highest for 3 and 4 star. We used to differentiate reimbursement for 1 and 2 star as well, although I'm not sure if we discontinued that or not, so I don't want to say something incorrect. But those efforts are ongoing. But again, they're only if you serve low-income kids can you get those financial incentives. And that's why in this bill, one of the credits is tied to how many low-income kids you serve, but most of them are not. So everybody, whether they're in a community that serves low-income children or not, can benefit from these financial incentives.
Chair Markwart. Okay, Representative Wills, and then we'll go on to Ms. DeVos and Ms. Potts. Representative Wills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Loon, for working on this. And I just spoke with a friend of mine who is an in-home childcare provider, and she is seriously considering going to unlicensed and just caring for one family because she can't keep up with the paperwork and regulations, so it is a concern. And we need to work on that front as well. But I just wanted to briefly respond to Representative Markwart's question about the rural versus metro. And if, in my looking at the bill, and maybe staff can correct, it doesn't seem there's anything that creates any kind of differentiation or percentage based on geographic area. And I don't think we would want to do that, because I think we would, if we moved forward with this language, we would want to make sure that the credits were available where the need is, not an arbitrary location. So just a thought.
Any other comments? Chair Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Sanford, would it not be prudent for DHS to offer an online course free of charge, because this is such an important issue, to providers so that they could move up in the star rating? Because I know there must be the way to develop an online course to help them move to that higher rating. Would that not be a prudent idea?
Ms. Sanford.
Or, Mr. Chair, Representative Erickson, in the early childhood world, access to free and low-cost training is huge, no matter where it comes from, whether it's DHS or someone else. In order to qualify for Parent Aware ratings, the training has to be approved by Parent Aware, and it can be approved if it comes from companies, individual trainers, anyone can submit training to have it approved. And it would definitely, and this is something I know DHS and the Parent Aware system is working on, we do need more online training available, especially for greater Minnesota, because when you have to travel great distances and there just aren't as many trainers in those areas, in order to get the specific training, it's very specific training you need to get to move through the Parent Aware rating levels, and we do need more of that online and easily accessible to our providers.
Chair Erickson.
And Mr. Chair and Ms. Sanford, the reason I bring it up is DHS sets the regulations, which, as you heard Representative Wills and others say, is a barrier. Representative Marquardt noted it. It certainly is hurting us in rural Minnesota. So they should be, I think, a prime mover in this effort so that we are able to provide the quality that we're seeking and also keep providers at work in especially rural Minnesota. Because they have access to something that can really help them. So I think we should encourage DHS in that direction.
Thank you, Chair Erickson. Okay, any other questions for Ms. Sanford? Otherwise, thank you very much, Ms. Sanford. We'll now go to Ms. DeVos and then Ms. Potts. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Karen DeVos. I live in Ada, Minnesota. I own Little Learners Early Childhood Center. I also serve as director and teach preschool there.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you so much. Little Learners is a parent-aware rated center. We are the only center in Norman County. We are located on the same campus as a nursing home and assisted living facility. We are fortunate to be able to partner with the nursing home to provide extended hour care and discounts for their employees, as well as work with their activities department to be able to enjoy intergenerational experiences with their residents on a daily basis. It is a blessing to have the opportunity to watch those relationships and the people of both communities thrive. Little Learners is located in a small rural community, and the market does not allow for us to charge what it truly costs to run a business such as ours. Our teachers do not earn what they deserve. They work long hours for little pay and limited benefits. As a center, we barely break even every month, with the majority of our income going right back into employee wages, food costs, and training and education fees. Like most who work in early childhood, we are not in this business to become rich, but rather to change our world by helping to grow and educate the amazing little people that we are blessed to work with every day. The tax credits that have been proposed in this bill would help in every facet of our business. Credits for our teachers would put dollars directly into their pockets, enabling them to be able to continue their very important work and encouraging them to also continue their learning so they can be the very best teachers. Tax credits for parents would encourage families to seek out quality care and education for their children, as well as help them with the rising costs of childcare. Tax credits for business partners could potentially encourage communities to look at these types of partnerships and effect change in the ever-growing childcare crisis. And tax credits for early childhood providers will not only encourage those providing care and education to maintain high levels of quality, but could also help in the budget to provide a more livable wage for those working directly with our children. For my center, those credits would go right back into the pockets of teachers to increase wages and to reduce the child-to-staff ratios. I just want to share that I left Ada at 5:30 this morning to be here today. As soon as I'm finished testifying and I'm done with the hearing today, I'm heading right back home where I will close the center for the day.
Who said you're getting done today?
Now you sound like my husband.
Oh,
He says it's never a guarantee. I should not be here today. We had an extremely emotional day at our center yesterday. I've been doing this business for 20 years, working in center care and in family child care. And for only the second time in the 20 years that I've been doing this, we had to let go of a child yesterday due to behavior concerns. This little girl has been in foster care for the last 8 months. She was placed with us a week after entering foster care. 2 months ago, she found out that she was no longer going to be able to go back to her biological family's home. That led to a lot of behavior issues, and we had to bring on another teacher specifically for her. We do not have it in our budget to provide an extra teacher long-term. And so yesterday, we had to say goodbye to this little girl who did not choose this situation, who is brilliant and so loving, and who is going to go a long way, but unfortunately not with our help. These credits could make all the difference for kids like this. We serve 18 children who are on child care assistance or scholarships. We're licensed for 39. It was not an easy process to get Parent Aware rated. We started at a 1-star, we built our way up. We did it with the grants that are made available through Parent Aware. They have building quality grants that help provide education for my staff. They help purchase new supplies and toys for our center. That funding is available if you are willing to utilize it. We do see, I think I'm only one of 2 or 3 Parent Aware rated facilities, including family child care in our county. I really, truly don't believe that that's because it's too expensive or it's too difficult. I think it's because they don't need to. There's a demand, and to go through the extra work is a little bit, it's not really necessary. I really want to encourage you guys to take a good, strong look, not only at this bill, which I think is amazing and can really help a lot of different areas, but also to look at early childhood as a whole. All of the statements that were made here today are important. A huge push needs to be made to change where our state is going, and I really think that we can do it, and I really believe that this tax credit bill is a start. Thank you so much.
Thank you. How far is Ada from Dilworth?
From Dilworth, about 37 miles. Depends on,
38 miles, yeah.
Is
Depends
Ada
on how
Borup
fast I
in the
drive.
Same conference as Dilworth?
No.
Different
third
conference?
class down.
Yep, different class.
Oh, different class.
Yep.
Isn't it Ada like Borup, the Wildcats? Cougars.
Ada Borup Cougars, we are
Cougars.
amazing girls basketball team. Yeah,
Awesome.
yep.
Awesome. Okay, let's focus, Greg. Okay, Representative Marquardt.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Ms. DeVos, for
Good morning.
traveling from Ada, so it is quite a jaunt, so it's, appreciate you being here. But thank you for your testimony, because I think, you're talking about the only daycare center in Norman County, and you said, what, 2 or 3 possibly at the Star Aware rating, something
That are
like
star rated in the entire county.
Ms. DeVos.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it really illustrates kind of the concerns is, and something like this can only help, but it's a much larger concern, just the shortage of those that would be able to get to the 3 and 4-star rating. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. And, when we've just kind of, I know there's task force out there and we're looking at regulations and the whole works, but it's becoming a crisis, the shortages of daycare. And to see good ones like yours, Ms. DeVos, is great to see out in rural Minnesota, but it's sometimes far and few between. And we're losing them more than gaining them. And so whatever we can do. And so, I mean, something like this would certainly help as part of the problem. But thank you again for coming down from Ada.
Thank you.
Questions for Ms. DeVos? Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming down from Ada. Okay, let's go to Ms. Potts. Please state your name and who you represent for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Trinette Potts. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. My name is Trinette Potts. I am a formal, thank you, parent aware rated family child care provider and an early childhood educator. And just coming to give my, thank you, hello, give my testimony or to speak on the tax credit in this bill and how important it would be for family child care providers.
Okay.
Okay. This bill would mean a lot, not just in actual income or economics to providers, but also knowing that this comes from our government, from our state, recognizing the work that we do is really important to family providers. It's a moral boost in the work that we do. Sometimes we feel undervalued, unappreciated, but knowing that our state and our government really recognizes the importance of the work that we do and that you would support a bill like this to help us is greatly appreciated. Wages are low in the childcare industry, and it's a main driver why people either leave the industry or not come into it. Providers are committed to serving low-income families. We face multiple barriers in generating more income. I remember taking a class when I was doing family child care, and they wanted us to compare and get rates. And so we had to go and find out what rates were in other communities and then what the reimbursement rate was. And then they tell you, you know, set your own rates. And my family child care was in North Minneapolis. And in order for me to set my rates where I wanted them to, I had to reconsider, because parents in my community, majority of them, probably 90%, if not 95%, were on child care assistance. And so asking them to pay the rates that I would prefer to be reimbursed was not a reality, because that would mean that they would have to come out of pocket to pay the difference between what I charged and what the reimbursement rates were from the state or from the county. And so that's often difficult for families to do. And so then as providers, you're often limited to setting your reimbursement rates to what the CCAP rates are. So the parents in my community, they can't afford to pay more. So this tax credit bill would really help. Most of the parents, like I said, use child care assistance, and they can't afford to pay anything beyond their reimbursement rate. I wanted to charge more, but I couldn't. And in the community I serve, it's just not reasonable to do that. It's not a smart business move. My income was limited, not by the quality that I provided to the family or the loyalty to my families, but it was due to the reimbursement rates, which are far too low. The credit in this bill would reward providers committed to educating children from low-income families. That would help immensely. Just knowing that at tax time there was an adjustment that would help me remain financially viable and able to serve my community. Many child care providers barely break even. Some pay themselves far below the minimum wage after expenses. When you're in a tenable economic situation, any surprise could be a huge setback. In family child care, you're sometimes hit with things that any homeowner would be hit with, but it just doesn't affect your family. It also affects the children and families that you serve. There was a time when I was in child care that my basement flooded due to a flood that we had. And so when it flooded, my sub pump failed. So I had to get my sub pump replaced. I had to get some drying equipment to dry the basement and tons of other work that needed to be done. For me, I had to make a decision what to do. At that time, because it wasn't just myself that was hit with that same flood, but many providers were, they created an emergency grant to help fix that. But had that emergency grant not been there, that would have been a huge setback for me. There are things that happen as a homeowner that sometimes you have no control over, and that you do have to fix those. So sometimes you have to worry, do I put this on my credit card? Is this going to, affect other areas of my life? Am I going to have to now try to raise rates, which in my situation you can't, so you wonder what you're going to do. So sometimes hard decisions have to be made when you're a family child care provider. Knowing that there's a little extra help available at tax time, that would make take some of the anxiety out of the moment. I love the fact that this bill also provides incentives for child care professionals to further their education and then reward them for doing so. These additional funds could help take the edge off when people are contemplating furthering their education for this career or abandoning it altogether for something else. It could also help people see that while there may be another job for $1 more an hour, they could also stay in this career that they love and recoup the cost at the end of the year through taxes. Our field is consistently losing providers to jobs requiring less education and skill due to wages. This could help stop that flow. I personally, when I was family child care provider, went through Parent Aware, got Parent Aware rated, started out with the 1-star. I do like the fact that Parent Aware have the incentives in there. I did go back to school to further my education, ended up getting my associate's degree, and would love to continue my education. Because of that, I was able to become 4-star rated. And I like the fact that we do have programs and systems in place now through Parent Aware to help providers get there. I hear a lot of talk today, and I wasn't aware of all the problems that we have in the rural areas. And I know that this one thing will not help cover the whole issue with the child care, but it is a beginning, it's a start. We had a staff meeting, and someone came to speak at our staff meeting to talk about what possible tax incentives could do. And the staff, after hearing what something like this could do for providers and professionals in our industry, they were all excited and all happy. So although it won't address every issue, it would help keep some of the people from leaving our field. Being in childcare, I have had teachers say, you know, I can't afford to stay here. I have to take a job. I have to feed my family. I have student loans, and this just isn't paying enough. But having something extra come in that could make or break a person or make that decision to stay in here in this field, and we do need people to stay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Potts. Any questions for Ms. Potts? Okay, then, Chair Loon, would like to wrap it up? Thank you, Ms. Potts. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I think, obviously, kind of a large bill to think about in terms of just both the impact and potentially the cost of it. But I'd like to think it's a creative idea of trying to provide some possible solutions to help us increase the supply of quality childcare, help parents afford what is a very expensive thing when you've got young children, and also try to incent more people to stay in this really important field. We need it. Our economy needs it. Most people that are in the workforce, many of them have young children, and so it is very important that we address these needs. So with that, I just really appreciate the committee's interest. So.
Thank you very much. Chair Loon renews her motion that House File 3853 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus tax bill. Thank you, Chair Loon.
Thank you.